Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of the Optimus NFL Show. I am your host, Brad Bolt. Joining me tonight, as always, is my good mate and co-host, Dan O'Connell. Dan, how are we going?
Brad, I'm excellent. We are Saturday night here in Australia, and my weekend got off to the perfect start yesterday, watching the Packers versus Washington game. So, yeah, there's not many better ways to start a weekend with a Thursday night football win. So, up and about this week.
Exactly. It starts the weekend off well, and then that way you can watch the rest of the games this week, and you don't have a care in the world because it's not your team playing. You've already seen them win. Um, if you are watching us on YouTube, guys, please like and subscribe. Leave your comments there at the bottom. We would love to have your feedback come in. We're going to jump straight into that game that Dan mentioned, the Packers versus the Washington Commanders, in our Red Zone Rewind. Red Zone Rewind, recapping this Packers-Washington game. Packers 27 to the Washington Commanders 18. This game wasn't as close as what the score showed. The Packers really came out and solidified themselves in my mind. I know it's only early, it's week 2, but their first 2 games, they had the Detroit Lions and they had the Washington Commanders, 2 teams who were considered one who was considered a Super Bowl threat last year and one who made it all the way to the NFC Championship game, and the Packers just dismantled both of those teams in those 2 games. They've really put themselves in contention here as a Super Bowl threat this year. Dan, since it's your team, I'm going to let you take the lead on this and give us a bit of a rundown on how this game panned out and some of your thoughts.
Yeah, it's one of those things where obviously early in the season, you don't want to get too excited about where teams are going to look at come the end of the year. But when you're looking at this Packers team and the way they've played the last 2 weeks, like you said, we had the Detroit Lions last week, and a lot's been mentioned about no Ben Johnson and no Aaron Glenn. But at the end of the day, the Lions have still got an extreme amount of talent on both sides of the ball, and they looked second rate
Mm,
against the Packers defense and against the offense as well because we moved the
yeah,
ball extremely easily. And then you look at the Washington Commanders, and Jaden Daniels had an excellent rookie season last year. And he's the sort of quarterback where the Packers have struggled against in the past, that mobile quarterback that can get out of the pocket and cause issues with his feet and legs. And for basically, 3/4 of this game, we completely shut him down. He just couldn't get anything going. That entire Washington offense couldn't get anything going. And this
mm,
is with the defensive side of the ball. It's the instant impact of Micah Parsons coming in. And we've seen what he's done so far against one of the best tackles in the game and another really good one in Penei Sewell first week and then Laramie Tunsil this week. He's made them look second rate and they haven't been able to stop him at all. And he's doing this without a training camp, without a preseason, and without being familiar with the Packers' defensive scheme and that sort of thing as well.
mm,
So you look at this look a month in advance, and Micah Parsons is up to his normal snap count, and he's got his feet under him, got his game speed back. Like everything about his game is where he was last year, the year before, and throughout his career. If the defense is playing like this now, it's scary to think how good they're going to be in a month's time. And you look at a player like Lucas Van Ness, who has come under fire from Packers fans his first 2 years because he hasn't lived up to his draft hype, like the draft pick hype. He's come out this year and he looks like a complete different player. And
yeah,
he's making an impact on that side of the ball in both games so far. So if they have him making an impact and living up to that sort of 13th overall pick, and then on the other side you've got Rashawn Gary, who you know how much I love him as a player. I always have. The criticism against him is he doesn't have those big sack numbers like the
mm,
other top edge players do. He sort of maxes out at 7.5 sacks a season. And I've said to you in the past that he should be a double-digit sack guy each year.
yeah.
but he does a lot of other things that don't show up on the stat sheet and that sort of thing, which goes unnoticed. But this year, he looks like he's going to live up to that double-digit sack season that I've been waiting for. And that's the Michael effect as well. But a lot of the plays that the Packers defense is making at the moment is separate to Micah Parsons as well. So it's just really exciting on that side of the ball, especially at the moment, to watch how they're playing. Because we haven't really seen a defense like this for the Packers fly around like that for maybe 10 years. So if they can keep that defensive side of the ball being as elite as what they are now, then yeah, I genuinely can't see this team falling short of at least the NFC Championship game. And as far as I'm concerned, the way they're playing at the moment, they can beat Philadelphia and get to the Super Bowl.
I think the good thing about that defensive line is there was that sort of talk of, how does that Packers defensive line cycle through Rashawn Gary, Micah Parsons, Lucas Van Ness? But I think we actually even saw some snaps where all three of them were out on the field at the same time, and they're able to move guys like Micah and Lucas Van Ness around. And I think that's one of the good things about that defensive line is the versatility, is being able to line Micah Parsons up against the right tackle one snap, then the next snap he's against the left guard, then he's against the left tackle, and you're just able to move him as that, that joker, or in the sense of like, where is number one? I wanted to say number 11 then because I'm so used to saying number 11, but where is number one and how do we account for him? And what do we have to do in terms of sliding our line protection to the side that he's on? And that's where I think you're going to see maybe the Rashawn Gary double-digit sack type of season is when they're starting to slide that protection away from him and leaving him one-on-one. As you said, I like Rashawn Gary, but to me, he's not an elite edge rusher, which that's not saying too much because there's not too many elite edge rushers in the NFL. But he had the potential to be up in that, close to that conversation. He's just not hit that so far yet. And that was the issue, that we've spoken about, is that, you're higher on him than I am, but I'm not down on him whatsoever. I just didn't ever see him eventuating into that, upper echelon edge rushers, just based off of what he's done so far. But now having a guy like Micah Parsons on the other side, I think you're now going to see, I wouldn't be shocked now after this year, he's up in that conversation of, okay, he's not a Myles Garrett, he's not a Micah Parsons, he's not a TJ Watt, he's not an Aiden Hutchinson, but he's now in that next group of guys that we're sort of seeing there. The guys who are incredible edge rushers, but no one really mentions their names. So, like, your Daniil Hunters, the guys, maybe as, Abdul Carter maybe in around that spot too at the end of the year. But like Rashawn Gary now, I think will be in those types of conversations.
And the thing is with Rashawn Gary as well, he can be in the conversation as the best run defender out on the edge because he's always affected the run game more than obviously the passing game in the sense of numbers-wise. But yeah, if he's getting after the quarterback and finishing the plays like he is at the moment, then yeah, look out. So, and we're talking about the defense. We haven't even touched on the offense yet, and they've moved the ball, and they haven't even looked like they've got out of first gear yet, which is scary to think about when they've made it look this easy.
It does look like they've got some improvement and some consistency that if they can hit that, sky is the limit for this team. They are going to be hard to beat. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit harder now. We had Jaden Reed go out with a broken collarbone early in that game, but, then you had Tucker Kraft step up. You had Romeo Dobbs who, it's that play, like when it got down, his touchdown, I didn't have a chance to send you this message before it happened, but I was pretty much about to send you the message to say, like, this is just going to go to Dobbs. Like, if for some reason, it's this weird level of confidence that I have in Green Bay that once they get inside the 15, it just feels like Jordan Love's go-to guy is Romeo Dobbs nearly every time without question. So as soon as that sort of happened, I went, okay, he's going to score here, and if he wasn't going to score, he was at least going to get a target or two, was sort of how I was looking at it. And yeah, he scored. And then, we saw probably, I think it's safe to say, maybe the breakout game of Tucker Kraft for a lot of people. Not us. You and I have been high on Tucker Kraft for a long time. but for a lot more people, he has now put himself into that upper echelon of tight ends, I think, as well as you, because it's not just he's had one good receiving game where he's gone over 100 yards. It's the totality of the tight end position. He would be way up there in terms of playing the tight end position. I have him way up there. I'm a huge fan of Tucker Kraft and have been since he was taken by the Packers.
To be honest, I think his stat line was 6 catches, 124 yards, and a touchdown.
Mm.
He could have had double-digit catches that game, and he could have near reached 200 yards. But because Anthony Belton was struggling on the edge, we didn't have Zach Tom. We didn't have our best offensive lineman this game, Zach Tom.
And you didn't have Aaron Banks. He was out as well. So you had your starting left guard out.
Yeah, so at a point, we had to put Tucker Kraft back in the blocking game a lot more than what they probably would have wanted to. So that, like you said, the totality of the tight end position, he is amongst the best. And we had this conversation on message after the game, I think yesterday. I think he's now surpassed Travis Kelce right now as a tight end. Going off this year, like for what we expect this year, I think he's surpassed Travis Kelce. And I think he's right there in the conversation with Bowers, McBride, Kittle. They're the top 3 to me. I think Tucker Kraft is number 4, to be honest, at the moment. I think he's the 4th best tight end in the game. And I don't think we've even seen him scratch the surface of just how good he can be yet.
Yeah, because I think everyone loved in this previous draft the 2 main tight ends here. Actually, they loved most of the tight ends in this class, but you sort of look Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland. Tyler Warren's more of a wide receiver than a tight end. Like he's not known for his blocking. He's known for everything else he can do. Colston Loveland is probably the more closer to a tight end, but I don't think he's going to have that same sort of like number 1 target option. Like I don't think he's built to be that type of George Kittle, Travis Kelce type of guy, you know, the number 1 option in the team who's also the blocker and all that sort of stuff. So I think, yeah, I was trying to think. There's not too many other guys that I would have above Tucker Kraft at the moment at the tight end position. Because, yeah, you're right. There are some guys there that I would have above him, but it is only going to be a select handful that I think picks above him at the tight end position.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Tucker Kraft, one of my favourite players in the league at the moment. Not even just as a Packers player, just in general. I just love watching him play, how he goes about it. And we look at how good this offense was. They could have had a 96-yard touchdown to Matthew Golden as well on top of everything. And it missed inches away from fingertips. Like Jordan Love just did not put it exactly where it needed to be. It was just out of reach. And it could have been another 96 yards on top of what we already had. And just, that sort of thing will click at some point and he'll have a massive one like that. And it's just exciting to see.
The thing at the moment with this offense is it hasn't been consistent yet. Like you said, it's not that, you know, it feels like whenever Joe Burrow gets out on the field, like this is a poor comp, but do you know what I mean? Like when you're watching the Bengals, every time you feel like Joe Burrow goes out on the field, you're like, okay, this is going to be a score one way or the other. He's going to hit his guy. That's just the feel that you get from the Bengals when they're clicking. The Packers don't quite feel like that yet. At times they do. Like at times they get out there and you're like, you know, how's anyone going to stop this? And then at other times you're sort of like, what on earth is going on here? I'm not 100% sure. If they tidy some of that up, then yeah, they're going to be hard to play because, like you said, Matthew Golden hasn't shown yet. I mean, I know it's only 2 games, but there was, and maybe this is more so because I've seen a lot more of people in the fantasy aspect, you know, fantasy world who are thinking this. We're expecting bigger games from him to start with. I think he's going to be one of these guys who's going to by the second half of the year has really stepped into his role where he's going to work out. But, once he's up and running, you'll hopefully by that stage have Jaden Reed back. You've got Romeo Dobbs there. I'm not sure if Christian Watson will be back at all this year. There is talk of that. But, how much do you want to rely on a Christian Watson at that time of year coming off an ACL? So he might be a guy who is a bit more of a gadget type player in the sense of like he's only out there for X number of plays and it's for certain things. And then, you work it out from there. But if they can get that consistency and they can keep that running game going and Josh Jacobs can, get somewhere between that 70 to 120 yards each week, they really are a Super Bowl type team. So
We haven't even seen Josh Jacobs at his best this year either. Yeah, it's as a fan, I haven't been this confident in the team this early, probably since I guess Rodgers having the 2 MVP seasons back to back, but that's gone back like 5 years. So, yeah, it's exciting times. It's definitely as a Packers fan, and it has to be exciting for the NFL in general because watching this team play, if you're not the Vikings fans, Bears fans, or Lions fans, how can you not enjoy the way they're playing at the moment? Or, Commanders fans as well after Thursday night's game.
yeah, they are a lot of fun to watch, and they're really well coached, and everyone knows their role, and they play it all really well. And like I said, if they
this well, is it could be the last season of Jeff Hafley as defensive coordinator for us because he's going to get headhunted as a head coach. Like they would have been. I'm surprised he didn't get an interview last year because I know how good he is. He's going to have teams banging down his door to try and get interviews with him after this year.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Well, now that we've gone on the Thursday night football game, we're going to get into a couple of the games that we're looking forward to this week. And once again, like last week, it's not going to be every single game. We've just got a select few here, and we're going to get to them now in our keys to kickoff. That's right, the keys to kickoff are here. We're going to go through a couple of our games here. The first one we are going to start with are the teams in the same division as the Green Bay Packers. We've got the Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions. Lions are $1.34 favourites to the Bears, $3.27. The over-under is 47.5, with the Lions minus 6.5 favourites there. If we look at last week, the Lions lost to the Packers 27-13 and the Bears lost to the Vikings 27-24. I'm still not sure how they lost last week, 27-24. That first drive that the Bears came out, Caleb Williams looked incredible. The Bears offense looked incredible, and then it just stopped. It just completely stopped from there, and they started off the second half. It was a pick six by Nashawn Wright. He went back, he ran it through. Then by time that the final touchdown was scored by the Bears, that was only their first offensive touchdown since that first drive. So it wasn't the it was a great start to the game, and then it tapered off for the Bears from there. So Dan, give me your thoughts on this game between the Lions and the Bears this week.
Yeah, it was one of those games where obviously teams have their game plan scripted for the first however many plays they want to run. And so, like the first 15 plays the Bears ran in the first quarter, they looked absolutely incredible. And it was a complete different Caleb Williams to what we saw last year, a complete different Bears offense to what we saw last year. And you sat back and you're like, oh, okay, this is the Ben Johnson effect. Like, we're seeing the Ben Johnson effect play out. And then they got past that, quarter time hit, and then the wheels fell off. Caleb Williams couldn't hit the side of the barn. He couldn't get any consistency going whatsoever. And it was what we saw last year with him as well. And Ben Johnson looked lost and confused on the sidelines at times, wondering what was going on and just wondering why they couldn't get anything moving there on the offensive side of the ball. And we saw on the flip side, JJ McCarthy looked like the worst quarterback in the league for the first 2.5 quarters, even pretty much all of the third quarter as well. Like, he looked like he was the worst quarterback in the league, and I have talked him up as being a winner and just somebody that may not have all the elite level tools, but he just gets it done in the moment and will always will his team to victory. And I'm sitting there going, I'm going to have to eat a lot of crow on this one at the moment because he just looks flat out bad. And I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for messages from you all the time going, I told you, Daniel, like, this is what I was saying. And then it was just a hard watch. It was good watch as a Packers fan because both teams were playing awful. So I was loving it. And then that fourth quarter started. And something flipped for the Vikings, something flipped for JJ McCarthy. And we saw him fire that dagger into Justin Jefferson. And he put that much heat behind that one where he's got an arm on him. Like, he's got a strong arm. We just didn't always see it at Michigan. But he showed that he can make NFL level throws. And he started to get in that groove. And he got that rushing touchdown as well. And you saw the fire that he had after that. And you just, at that point, you just knew, yeah, okay, Vikings are coming back in this. They're going to come over the top and they're going to win this game. Because he just has that way about him. And for him to do that, his first start in the NFL, after what he did for the 3 quarters beforehand, what can you say? Like, that was a hell of a comeback and a hell of a way to finish off that game.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where, he won the game. I actually think it was probably handy that they were down by so much against the Bears because he really didn't have a chance to think. It was sort of like, okay, I just need to go out. It sort of looked to me, now I could be completely wrong, but it sort of looked a bit like maybe he was thinking too much early on. It was like, right, I know this is coming from here. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. Is my footwork. And, it's not surprising. It's a guy in his first NFL start. Like, you can forgive that. But like you said, once it got towards the end of that third quarter, it was sort of like, okay, we're down. The only way we're going to win this is I've just got to go out and play football like I always have. Then all of a sudden he turned into a different quarterback. I'm not willing yet to say he's a good quarterback because we've seen quarterbacks have good games before and not move on. But, I mean, it's only early. But it was promising signs that he's not going to be a guy who's going to get too overwhelmed by a scoreboard and still is going to think, okay, I can come back from this. So, yeah, it's...
Watch how it plays out with him this year because he's pretty sure he's the youngest starting quarterback in the league at the moment. Like, he's only 22. So, yeah, I mean, as a Packers fan, you're hoping that the rest of the quarterbacks absolutely suck. But on the other hand, you do want them to be good because you want that division to be the best in the league. And you want to be challenged and not just steamroll the entire division and get to the playoffs and then you struggle because you've picked up easy wins in your division. So, yeah. I'm a JJ McCarthy fan. I hated that he went to the Vikings, but I just love watching him play, and it was good to see him come back the way he did. So I think that's why we highlighted this game. It's just going to be interesting.
And I think...
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. It's going to be interesting now how Caleb and the Bears bounce back from that game because we saw last year what happened when they had that horrific loss in the Hail Mary against the Commanders, and it just torpedoed their whole season from there. It's going to be interesting to see if they are able to just put that game to the side with Ben Johnson. He's going to be able to focus the guys and go, okay, that was last week. It happens. It's week 1. Weird things happen in week 1. We'll move on from there. Speaking of, like, weird things happen week 1, like the Lions, once again, against the Packers, that was another game where the scoreboard wasn't as close as the actual game. That, to me, was the same sort of thing. It was Lions week 1, but now we've also seen the Packers do that 2 weeks in a row. it's a different when you look back on it and go, okay, well maybe it's because of how good the Packers were as opposed to how bad the Lions were. So I personally would be going the Lions in this game against the Bears just because I don't trust the Bears at all yet. Like I need to see them work. So like I've seen the Lions. I know they had different coordinators and everything, but I've seen the Lions have losses one week and then come out and go on a run and win 6, 7 games in a row, and you see the talent that they have. It's hard to. You look at the two teams; they've got some talent matches in certain areas, but it just feels overall the Lions are too good a team overall, and it'd be hard for me to see. It would be hard for me to pick against the Lions when they're at home after a week where they would probably feel pretty humiliated with how that played out. So I would be going the Lions there with this one against Chicago.
Yeah, I'd comfortably take the Lions here as well. I'm probably taking them -6.5 as well, to be honest. I think they win by a touchdown or more. So I think the Bears will struggle. Caleb Williams will still struggle with his consistency. And I guess just Ben Johnson wouldn't have installed his full playbook yet. So how much more do they give Caleb this week after the way he played sort of the last 3 quarters of that game? Or how
Yeah.
much sort of scale it back even more from what they had, who knows? But yeah, I don't think the Bears offense will be consistent enough to put up enough points against this Lions team.
Yeah, well, we'll move on to the next game here. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. So a Super Bowl rematch here. The Chiefs are $1.97 underdogs to the Eagles, $1.87 favourites. The over-under is 46.5. The Eagles are 0.5 point favourites in Kansas City. Now, the Chiefs lost to the Chargers last week 27-21. The Eagles beat Dallas 24-20. I am surprised that the line is so small between these two teams. I expected Philly to be favoured by, say, 3.5 at this stage. I just feel like they are the better team than Kansas City, especially too with Kansas City now also going through injuries as well after losing Xavier Worthy with a dislocated shoulder. Now, when you look at what they were expecting at the start of the year with Rashee Rice, and then he took the suspension. But you're thinking Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy as your 1-2 options, with Marquise Brown as your third option, Juju Smith-Schuster as your fourth option. That was sort of how, you in your receiving corps, but you also had Travis Kelce. Now you're going to be relying even more so on Travis Kelce. Marquise Brown is now your number one. Juju is now your number 2 receiver. And Tyquan Thornton is your number 3 receiver. Not what you'd be hoping for against this Philadelphia team. And, I mean, I don't think the Eagles played fantastic last week against the Cowboys, but they were able to hold on, get the win. I don't see after the way that the Chiefs played against the Chargers last week, plus the injuries that they had, I don't see... Now, anything can happen, and I'm not going to be like, I guarantee a win here, but I'm struggling to see how the Chiefs overcome having those guys out and coming up against this Philly team. Because even last week against the Chargers, like, the Chiefs are known for how good their defense is with Steve Spagnuolo as the defense coordinator. It felt like Justin Herbert got whatever he wanted last week. He was running for first downs. He was picking apart the defense. They were like, yes, Amarian Hampton didn't have a huge game running wise, but it wasn't as if he was like, oh, well, he only ran for 12 yards for the entire game. They just felt like it wasn't the Chiefs team that we're used to. Now, it could be because it was game number 1. It could be because it was in Brazil. But I am going to take the Eagles here because I don't think that the Chiefs have enough to beat them with their injuries and who they're missing through suspension as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said. In saying that, I can't see a world, as much as I might want to see it just because you get Chiefs fatigue, but I can't see a world where the Chiefs lose week 1, come back home, and go down 0-2 on the season. I don't know, something just everything points to a Philly win this game. Like everything you said is clear as day. This is a Philly win. They get Jalen Carter after he got kicked out last week. So that's a massive impact there. We saw in the Super Bowl that the Chiefs keyed in on stopping Saquon Barkley and they contained him extremely well. Then Jalen Hurts took over and just torched him. I'd expect the Chiefs to look to lock down Saquon Barkley again and focus all their attention on that. I don't know. Something about it just says to me I'm confidently picking the Chiefs in this one because I just can't see Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes starting the season 0-2.
My only thought was that if you think back to the Super Bowl that the Chiefs beat the Eagles in a couple seasons ago, Jalen Hurts destroyed the Chiefs in that game as well.
He was
That was the thing.
before that fumble.
Yeah. And even then, even after that fumble, he came back and he was incredible.
Yep.
And it feels like that's their whole thing is, right, let's stop Saquon and make Jalen Hurts beat us. But Jalen Hurts nearly beat you in one Super Bowl and he dominated you in the other Super Bowl that you played. Like, he is, to me, I don't see how. I think they would need to try something different. If that was me, I'd be trying to key in a bit more on Jalen Hurts and try and make Saquon beat you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want, and especially too, this Philadelphia team. Now, we've seen it before. There's been a bit of animosity at times between, it looks like AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying there is, it's just how it appears. But if AJ Brown only had one catch on one target last week, if the Chiefs key in on Jalen Hurts and stop him from making those passes to AJ Brown, and he has 2 weeks in a row where he only has one or two targets, can you imagine the uproar that could happen between those two that could cause issues this year? Like, so if you know, I'm not going to say if I was the defensive coordinator, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see Steve Spagnuolo maybe for this game go, do you know what? Maybe we've tried just focusing on stopping. Well, we wanted Jalen Hurts to beat us. That's how we've played him in the last two Super Bowls. One of it worked just. The other one, it didn't work. And so if Steve Spagnuolo, it wouldn't shock me for him to go, okay, do you know what, this game, maybe let's swap it up. And let's just key in on Jalen Hurts and try and just say to Saquon and just be like, okay, try and beat us. We feel like our defense is good enough to stop you without having everything keyed in on you. But now we want our defense to make sure that Jalen Hurts doesn't run rampant all over us.
Yeah, like the smart money here is on the Eagles. Like everything points to them winning because they're the better team at the moment with the injuries to the Chiefs, and they're just not looking the same team as what they have. But yeah, the Chiefs at home are a complete different team than what they are. I guess as much as they're amazing everywhere, but the Chiefs at home are almost unbeatable. And I just think coming back after getting beat the way they did last week to the Chargers, coming back to play at Arrowhead, staring down 0-2 against a team that absolutely embarrassed them in the Super Bowl. Give me Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in that sort of game, and that's basically the only reason why I'm picking them.
And I get what you mean. I'm struggling to see it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm struggling. If the Chiefs had Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice playing, well, then yeah, I could. But without those two guys, I'm just struggling to see how they're going to beat.
Move the ball easily against this Eagles defense. So yeah, I'm probably out on an island here by myself with not many other people, but
No, like I said, I completely understand it. It's just me like trying to play the game in my head and trying to figure out how it's going to work. I'm just struggling to figure out what it is that the Chiefs are actually going to be able to do to stop the Eagles and win the game. That's my thing. I keep thinking is like how are they going to do that? And I'm struggling to come up with the answer as to what it actually is that they do to win this game.
I think that's again obviously Super Bowl matchup, but this has the potential to be game of the week because it can easily go either way, and we don't know what we're going to get out of the Chiefs. And the Eagles were lucky to beat Dallas last week as well, so they're not where they need to be at the moment, so they could be there for the taking for the Chiefs. But yeah, it's going to be an intriguing matchup, this one, just to see how it plays out.
It is. Dan, you can go through our next game that we've got here that we've got on the docket as to one we're going to be paying attention to, and then I can give my thoughts afterwards.
So we're going to look at an absolute barn burner here because our lovely host Brad is a Panthers fan, and we'd be remiss if we didn't speak of them on this podcast. But we've got the Cardinals versus the Panthers. Cardinals are at home in this one, and we're looking at $1.30 favourites for the Cardinals. So that's extremely short odds for a team that is really inconsistent year to year as well. But I think it just shows how the Panthers played last week. And unfortunately, they looked like they did at the start of last year. So the Panthers are at $3.56, which is massive outsiders. And it's tough to see them doing anything this week against the Cardinals. The Panthers obviously lost last week to the Jaguars 26-10. And it just looked bad across the board for the Panthers. And you just hope that they can sort of pump it up a little bit to what they did at the end of last year. So Panthers lost to Jags 26-10 last week. On the flip side of that, the Cardinals didn't look all that good against the Saints either. They won 20 points to 13, but they've got a lot of improvement that they need as well because we're not expecting anything out of the Saints. So who knows what we're going to get out of this game, but if we see points on offer there, potentially, the over-under's set at 44.5. I personally think I'd be looking at the unders there. I'm just not sure we're going to get enough offense out of the Panthers. And again, the Cardinals are a team that can just sort of scrape by as well. So over under 44.5. The Cardinals are minus 6.5, with the Panthers being given a 6.5 point start. So it's just one of those games where it could be a trap game for the Cardinals because we don't know what we're going to get out of them, but we just need to see a lot of improvement from the Panthers before we can sort of give them any confidence towards picking them at all, I believe. But as a fan of the Panthers, Brad, what are you expecting out of them this week after last week?
A lot better than what they had last week. I'm just trying to find. There is a stat that I was trying to see. So this is one of the reasons why I am, and I mean, yes, granted, it's because I'm a Panthers fan, but one of the reasons why I'm picking the Panthers, going back to 2015, so from 2015 through to now, the Panthers and the Cardinals have played 8 times. How many wins in that 8 do you think Arizona has had?
Considering how bad they've been as well over that point in time, maybe 2.
So you're over. So they've won once out of their last 8 times that they've played Carolina. So Carolina's actually won 7 of the last 8. Now that's even including, like, you think of it, the last couple of years with how bad Carolina has been, they've still beaten the Cardinals. They seem to have their number. They've seemed to have done really well against them. Now, I'm not saying that in the sense of, oh yeah, they've got their number, they've got this in the bag. I'm just meaning like they have actually done really well against Arizona. You know, there's some teams where you just watch them and you're like, you are so much better than them. How can you not beat that team? Or why is it always a struggle for you?
Yeah.
That's this matchup. Now, there's a couple of the issues that were coming out from last week is the defense played pretty average. There was a few bright spots, and Dave Canales has actually said in the week, you know, he wants to see some of the younger guys play a bit more. They haven't changed the depth chart yet, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Latham Ransom play a bit more, the safety that they drafted. I wouldn't be surprised to see Princely Umanmielen and Nick Scoughton play more. I think they only had 11 snaps combined between them.
Oh, really?
One of the things, yeah, they didn't have a lot of play time last week, so I'm thinking they're going to get a bit more bit more playtime. The Panthers are going to be without Deshaun Wharton. He's out with a hamstring injury for 2 to 4 weeks, so they're going to miss him. He was one of their off-season defensive acquisitions. So it's going to be. I'm just looking up the injury report now. So he's 2 to 4 weeks. Ike Ekwonu is questionable. Now he didn't play last week because of an appendectomy the week before. He's questionable. He may not play. So last week they had Josh Nyman was starting at left tackle.
Ex-legend.
Because legend. So from their team last week, it really is Turk Wharton is the only guy who is out. So he's out between 2 to 4 weeks. So he hasn't been put on IR, but I'm expecting Bobby Brown is going to be back out. Will step into that role. Sean Robinson, he's going to be there. Derek Brown. But I think part of the issue, one of the criticisms last week too, was that the play calls were, the Panthers were breaking the huddle with only about 11 seconds or 10 seconds left on the play clock. A lot. There was a lot of, we're just getting this play off with a second left on the play clock, or when it just, one of those ones where it just hits 0, but the ref looks down, sees that it's at 0, looks at the ball, and then just as he's about to blow the whistle, the play snapped, and it's sort of like, oh, well, we allow that tenth or half a second, whatever. So Dave Canales also got there and said, part of the issue was him getting the plays in sooner to Bryce, and also Bryce needing to get those plays out quicker so they can get to the line a little bit quicker. Now, he did not play very well last week. He had a few touchdowns. He had a pick six called back because of a defensive hold, and he was very lucky because it was a horrible pass. So I'm just expecting, and I'm hoping that it was just a poor week one. It was one of those ones that they sort of came out, they didn't look super prepared. Then they had the huge, hour and a half lightning delay. And then once they came back out, it just sort of, they looked all out of whack, and it just was not a good game all around. So, look, I am only picking, and also too, the Cardinals didn't look great against New Orleans last week. Now, a lot of people are expecting New Orleans to be maybe the worst roster in the NFL. They didn't look fantastic. They didn't look like world beaters, but also based on that and the fact that the Panthers have actually sort of had the Cardinals, 7 of the last 8 times they've played, they've won. I am just going to go out on a limb and go with the Panthers here as the underdog, because why not?
You've gone the complete.
Was there anything from that? Was there anything from that game that the Cardinals played against the Saints where you stood out and you went, yeah, they've got Carolina easily here? To me, watching it, it wasn't like I sat there and went, oh yeah, this is a team that they're going to put up 40, 50 points against the Panthers and they're going to shut them down. They just didn't look very good against the Saints. They got the win, but it wasn't a convincing
Now, if you're a Cardinals
match.
and you're not comfortable at all with where they are after week one, but we've seen week one puts up some weird things happening. And like you said, you're hoping that's the case for the Panthers, where they look completely different this week. And we'll see how it plays out. Like I was saying, you've gone with the complete biased homer take of picking the Panthers, but you've backed it up with stats of the past of what's happened in that as well. And like we both said, the Cardinals didn't look a good team either. So a lot of improvement in the Panthers, and again, a lot of improvement in the Cardinals as well. But it could be closer than.
Welcome back. Sorry about that, guys. We just had a few technical issues that kicked us out there, but we are going to head now to our betting segment, which is the lines of scrimmage. The lines of scrimmage is our betting segment. Now, both Dan and I have not had the best of starts this year, but this is the week that we turn it around. So what I am going to do is I'm going to read my bet off here. So I've got Devontae Adams, 40-plus receiving yards at $1.32. Now, Devontae has had 47 or more receiving yards in his last 8 matches, so I've gone with that one nice and easy there. DJ Moore, anytime touchdown, is paying $2.95. DJ Moore has scored a touchdown in 4 out of his last 5 games against Detroit. So I like that spot there for DJ Moore. I have Garrett Wilson, anytime touchdown at $3.38. Now, Garrett Wilson has had a touchdown in 3 out of his last 4 against Buffalo. So once again, it's another spot that I like there. He's 3 out of his last 4 with a touchdown. What's not to like there? This one's a bit of a bigger one. It's Jamar Chase, 90-plus receiving yards at $2.15. Now, Jamar has had 94 or more receiving yards in 4 of his last 5 matches. So for me, Jamar Chase there, I like that spot against Cleveland, and I'm expecting a big day from the Bengals there. And then I have Trey McBride, 60-plus yards at $1.81. Now, Trey McBride has had 61 or more receiving yards in 8 of his last 9 matches. So that gives you a total there of $46.33 for those odds, and a $5 bet gives you a payout of $231.66. So just to quickly recap it, Devontae Adams, 40-plus receiving yards, DJ Moore an anytime touchdown, Garrett Wilson an anytime touchdown, Jamar Chase, 90-plus receiving yards, and Trey McBride, 60-plus receiving yards. So, Dan, give us your best bets, and then we are done for this episode.
Yeah, I got a 5-leg multi here for me as well. So I'm looking at Derrick Henry going up against Cleveland. It's a tough matchup, but Cleveland are really good defensively. But the way that Derrick Henry's going to bounce back this week after we saw that fumble against Buffalo last week, essentially, I guess, letting Buffalo take the chance to win the game, and which they were good enough to do. Derrick Henry's going to come out angry this week. So I've got him as 2+ touchdowns at $3.20. I think he's going to have a massive game, just the way he bounces back when he has a mistake like that. He always bounces back in a big way, and even against Cleveland's defense, I'm expecting a big game. So 2+ touchdowns for Derrick Henry at $3.20. My next one is a anytime touchdown for CD Lamb. Now, we saw him put up good numbers last week, but he also had 3 or 4 drops as well, so it wasn't his best game. And I'm expecting the Cowboys offense to look much better this week going up against the Giants. So CD Lamb, anytime touchdown, I think to me that's easy money at $2.15. I'd expect Dak to target him heavily again, and they'll move the ball fairly easily as well. So CD Lamb, anytime touchdown. This one's a little bit shorter odds. I've gone CMC with an anytime touchdown at $1.54. Now, we spoke before we started recording. I was very close to putting him down as 2+ touchdowns in this, and I was paying, I think, $3.20. Basically, my thinking around that was he's going to be their entire offense because the 49ers have Mac Jones at quarterback, and you want to keep the ball out of Mac Jones' hands as often as possible. So they will be feeding CMC the entire game, and I think that he'll get his share of obviously rushing attempts as well. So there's always that chance where they can move the ball that way, and he'll be down in the red zone to get the touchdown there. But also, I think the amount of receptions he's going to have as well. I just think he's got a good chance there to get a receiving touchdown as well. So I'd love to put it in as 2+ touchdowns to boost the odds of this a whole lot more. But just the way I'm thinking this game's going to go, I don't think it's going to be explosive fireworks offensively for either team. So I'm just going to keep it simple with a CMC touchdown at $1.54. And then we move to the Cincinnati game. You already touched on Jamar Chase, 90+ yards. I've got Jamar Chase anytime touchdown at $1.86. And then I've got Joe Burrow for 3+ touchdowns here at $2.50. That Bengals offense did not look good last week against Cleveland. They're going up this week against Jacksonville, who they went up against Panthers last week, so who knows what Jacksonville are defensively at the moment. I think the Bengals can put 35 plus points on the board this week. So I'm expecting fireworks from the offense with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So Burrow with 3+ touchdowns at $2.50. Jamar Chase getting one of those touchdowns, $1.86. So for those 5 legs, we're looking at odds of $36.02. So on a $5 bet, we're looking at an even $180 there to win. So hopefully a nice one to get the year kicking off on the right note after a poor week 1.
Yeah, and I mean, with my Jamar Chase 90+ yards, he's not really averaged anywhere close to that versus Cleveland. But I'm just expecting it, as you sort of said, like, the Bengals would not have been happy with how that played out last week. So I'm expecting one of those ones where it's like, okay, let's really let rip. So like looking at the last couple of games, so Jamar Chase, his last 4 games against the Browns, he's had 26 receiving yards, 97, 55, and 19 in his last 4 against Cleveland. So it's not statistically, it's not shaping up that way that he could have that bigger game. But I look back, there was a game in 2022. Jamar Chase was 10 catches for 119 yards and a touchdown. I'm thinking with the way that the Bengals played last week and how they're going to want to come out this week, I'm expecting that type of stat line from a Jamar Chase.
Yeah, if you're a Jacksonville fan, you're panicking this game going up against that Bengals offense. So I think, like I said, I'm not expecting less than 35 points from the Bengals this week against the Jags. So plenty of opportunities there for Joe Burrow touchdown and Jamar Chase stats as well. So hopefully we can make up for last week and get our season rolling here off these bets.
Yeah, and that's the thing with these is, we could play some of these as individual bets and just go, the Devontae Adams or the DJ Moore touchdown or the Derrick Henry 2 touchdowns, but we're also trying to look at ways that we think that we like these and how we could combine a few together to try and get some higher returns for us and for anyone else who might be listening. So play these any way that you want. You can maybe mix and match with some that I have, with some with Dan, and you could go from there. So, Dan, can you just give us your final thoughts before we get out of here?
I think there's a few, we haven't touched on a lot of the other games here. Obviously, technical difficulties with my internet playing up tonight. We've got some poor weather here, but we've had to cut it a little bit short on what we'd like to chat about. But there's a lot of good matchups here. And if you're a fan of, I guess, good football in the NFL, you're going to have a lot of games where you can sit back and really enjoy it and get a gauge of, I guess, where a lot of teams are now after week 2 as well. So week 1's in the books. We don't know what to expect from teams coming into week 2, but we'd expect a lot of improvement from a lot of them coming now out of week 2 and into week 3 now. So interesting to see how it plays out. And all I care about is the Packers are 2-0 and we're on our way to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. I'm just hoping that Carolina gets and evens themselves up and is 1-1 after this week. So that's my hope. So, guys, if you've stuck with us for this long through our technical difficulties, we'd like to thank you. Please comment, subscribe, like the video, leave your comments below. We'd love to get some of your feedback on some of this and just see what your thoughts are. We'd love to see your bets as well. If you've got a bet that you like that you want to put on, please chuck it down below. Dan and I will definitely come back and read all of these. We would love to. We'd love to see what you guys cook up as well, because we'll take on board your bets and chuck them in with some of ours as well. Maybe we can come up with a few wins for everyone here on this one. So, Dan, can you get us out of here for tonight on this episode? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Yeah, Brad. Well, we are Optimus NFL, your one-stop shop for everything NFL and college-related football, and we just try and enjoy each week, and obviously let the viewers enjoy it as well, and give them what they need for their NFL experience. So, like you said, like and subscribe all across YouTube and our other networks. And as for Brad and myself, bye for now.